So I guess I get the life is tough speech, and everybody else got the fun one. So when you hear PwC, what does everybody think? Come on, yell. Tax, Big Four, insurance, audit. You can't say anything, Jordan, because you work there. Expensive, fair. Anything else? So we're all those things, and we're a whole lot more. We fly drones in Poland to watch capital projects to make sure they run more smoothly. We design machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms to make sure jets take off on time, to make sure downhole submersible pumps don't fail, and to make sure those little Presto card readers in Toronto when you get off the GO train actually work. We're helping governments transform the way they buy things. We've helped health organizations across the world change the way that they operate. We do a lot of interesting things, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the startup mentality and some of the things that we see and some of the things that I've had the pleasure of dealing with in my experience. So a little bit more of my background. I'm an engineer by training, a mechanical engineer. I started my career in oil and gas and construction, then moved into operations, then underground utility construction, and I joined PwC almost entirely by accident in 2008. And I joined PwC in 2008 to build what we were going to call a capital projects practice. And the price of what went from $120 to $30 in 2 weeks, and we couldn't do that anymore, so we pivoted the organization. I now have the pleasure of leading our operations team in Western Canada, and I lead our consulting practice in Calgary. And in Canada, we're a team of 6,000 people across all lines of service. Across the world, we're 237,000 people and growing every year. We deal with businesses of all sizes, from the ExxonMobils of the world, to the Apples, to the IBMs, down to everybody in this room. And I would say there's some messages that are very crisp and clear, and they resonate regardless of the size of your business. I actually had the pleasure of hearing Ray speak at our private company conference these past couple of days, and he had some great insight. The need to focus on rapidly improving your idea, but don't forget about the business. You are running a business of some sort. You have a great idea, and you've got to do something with it. But everybody has great ideas. And the number of times that we walk into organizations and we're asked to help because everybody was focusing on the idea, but they forgot they were running a business, and the problems that come with that are extensive. These are my 5 points. The startup focus. Protect your idea to help it grow. If your idea is great, you've got to protect it. We go into organizations all the time, and they haven't done any of the work around protecting their idea. And people will take your idea. You've got to protect it. You've got to invest in protecting it. And you've got to be able to articulate what it is so you can protect it. Invest the time to understand how you do that. Be big, but be aware. The small things matter. Pay your taxes. Focus on your culture. This is for Jordan. So many startups are so excited by their idea, and they launch and start, and they get some funding, and they haven't paid their taxes in 2 years. Nothing will kill your idea quicker than not paying your taxes. The little things do matter. Focus on your culture. Culture is what matters. Culture is what builds business, but you've got to do the things around your culture to make sure it exists beyond just a year. Hire the best advisors you can afford, not just us, anybody you want. Cheap and cheerful doesn't work. A lot of people expand into the United States. They expand their business globally, but they're still running off their bank account in Calgary or Edmonton. They haven't done any sort of tax structuring work. They haven't looked at what the laws mean, and believe me, when you talk to our tax guys and they're dealing with 700 pages of tax law, there's a lot of ways for you to fail when you cross a border. There are people who are very good at this. I am sure everyone in this room is very good at what they do. You got to hire the people that are good at what they do as well. If it's tax, hire them. If it's law, hire them. If it's cross-border accounting, hire them. If it's transfer payments and taxes, hire them. You got to get the right people on your team. And this is how you scale up. I would say outsource everything you can. You don't necessarily need everybody in your organization, but make sure you have the skill set on tap so that you can grow the way you want to grow. Hire the right people you need to achieve your strategy and guard against founder hubris. Guard against founder hubris. Businesses fail because people believe they are so smart that nobody can help them. Constantly we see this. We've done a lot of work in Calgary in particular, and Alberta for that matter, since 2014. The number of businesses that I walked into in 2015, and I had the founders saying, I'm actually going to invest in a facility to build more products for oil and gas. I'm going to build more tanks. I'm going to build more inventory because I'm sure it's coming back. And all the data was saying it's going like this. You've got to listen to what's out there. You've got to listen to the information that's in front of you. You've got to be able to use it, digest it, understand it. And you can't just hire the people that are going to agree with everything you say. If you look around your team and you all look the same, you all think the same, you all talk the same, you all get excited at the same time, and nobody's scared of what could happen, you probably need somebody else on your team. You've got to hire the people that are going to help you get there. And the people that might help you at one point in your business, they may not help you in the next point of your business. If you're building a business to sell, that's a much different group and type of personality than a business that's going to be there for the long term. So make sure you're hiring the people that you actually need to do the right things for your business. Small risk can become big risk. Cyber, compliance, regulatory. You guys are working in healthcare. Personal data and information is paramount to a lot of what you do. If you're unable to protect that, that's a problem. So we're a big firm. We also make mistakes. Did you watch the Oscars last year? That joke played hard for 2 weeks after that happened. Small risk becomes big risk. We had two ways of handling that. We could have buried it and said it wasn't us. But our CEO, Bob Moritz, came out the next day and said, yeah, it was us. And you couldn't hide it because there was pictures on Twitter of us making the mistake. If you make a mistake, sometimes you got to own it. What happened for us after we made that mistake is the CEO of United Airlines called us 3 months later. What was happening with United Airlines around the same time? That was also on Twitter, dragging people off airplanes. And he asked our CEO, how did you handle that? How did you make a difference with that risk? Small risk can become big risk. You got to make sure you know where it is. And again, don't necessarily have to hire it to get it, but talk to the people around you. Talk to people who have run businesses. I'm sure you could sit down and talk about the BioWare story for a couple hours, and you could go through all the risks and all the challenges you had. And all these things are applicable to any business in this room, or any idea in this room, or any entrepreneur in this room. Read business books. Be voracious. If it's happened before, it's going to happen again. I would say that 99% of the problems that we are hired to help with are the same problems we're always hired to help with. It's not a new story. The same things always happen. People don't focus. They don't know who their customers are. They don't understand the value they bring to the market. They price wrong. They believe that they are the best product and that competitor could never exist. I hosted our private company conference for the past 3 days in Banff. And there was a fellow there named Hanif. Came from an immigrant family, very poor. This is his 5th startup. But this startup, he decided to disrupt the credit and collections industry. It's a $15 billion industry around the world. It's run the way it's always been run. His company's been around for 4 months. They've yet to produce a line of code or a single product, and already the big banks have hired him. The credit and collections agencies did not see him coming. I hope that's the same for everybody in this room. Your competitors don't see you coming, but you're also going to have competitors. You got to make sure you know who's out there. Some of the things we've learned from working with organizations, the things that really help when you're building and growing, but some of the things that should be there all the time. Apply design thinking. Be divergent. Go through that process of thinking big, but allow yourself then to converge on the things that matter. And be ruthless about the things that matter. Be ready to throw things out. Fail fast, but fail lean. There is nothing like failing fast but spending a lot of money to get there. Be ready to kill it. Be ready to walk out of the room. One of the first guys I ever worked for always said, be ready to leave in 5 minutes, I'm going to fire the client. Fire the client. That's in our business, you don't do that. He was going to fire the client. Understand your customers and your employees and co-create with your customers and employees. The number of times that I've seen organizations not understand who their ultimate customer is, and they've created something that people don't actually need. They don't want, they constantly adapt. If you co-create with your customers' employees, you will create things that can't be matched. We did some work with an oil and gas company, as you do when you're in Alberta, and they were claiming that they weren't a very innovative culture. They weren't an innovative company. They had no way to innovate. And yet when you went out, and we were in southern Alberta in a dry gas field, and the guy's name was Ray, as a lot of operators are. Blue coveralls, he'd never been, I think he finished grade 10, he said, never been to post-secondary, never been to SAIT. His job was to keep oil wells running. Well, if anybody's been out in the field and looked at the way that old wells run, they are single-cylinder engines that run off flue gas. And inherently, they don't run. They fail at about -12. And he said, well, I got a better solution. So he went out and bought a 454 Chevy crate engine. Didn't tell anybody. Took the old one-cylinder engine off, strapped this on the back of the well, ran flue gas to it, figured out how to run it, and now his wells have a 99% uptime. But that's innovation and creativity. Unfortunately, that's only happened on 3 wells in southern Alberta because nobody thought that Ray was innovative enough or educated enough to be able to tell the rest of the organization how to run. Co-create with your employees and your customers. They will tell you what you need to do. And then digital is the way of working. I know you guys are all doing this today, but this is digital in everything you do. As an organization, we're 100+ years old. We decided 5 years ago that if we didn't go fully digital, we'd be irrelevant in another 5 years. 240,000 people out of work around the world. Digital in everything you do. If you're going back to your office today, anybody in your office, or anybody you know is ever going to order anything in triplicate again, stop them. Digital in everything you do. Transform every value stream in your organization so that it's digital. Allow yourself to scale. Be bigger than you actually are. Your job is to punch above your weight, and you can only do that by scaling up. And scaling up means digital. So in conclusion, I would say there's a few things that stand out and strike me every time we deal with startups, with small companies. Jordan, who's another one of my partners, is sitting in the crowd here, and he deals with small companies all the time. Invest in the things you don't understand. If you don't know about taxes, if you don't know about assurance, if you don't know about risk, invest in understanding those. Take the time to understand them because they will come back to bite you if you don't do it. Make sure you understand where your value is and where your value lies. And make sure you understand the focus of your organization. Nothing destroys an organization like pet projects that nobody knows about. Bring people together, understand what you're doing, and do one thing and do it really well. Take the time to understand where you're eroding value by being inefficient. And if you are the founder of your business, stop and recognize that you probably aren't the smartest person in the room. You should be hiring the smartest person in the room. And you need to step away. You need to step back. You need to give them a chance to create. You might have the best idea, but there are people you can hire that will help you take that idea to places that you've never dreamt and imagined. So be willing to be humble. There's a great book that's just been released. It's called Legacy. Anybody watch rugby? Yeah? Anybody else? I know one. Anybody else know what rugby is? Good. The All Blacks are the most successful sporting franchise in history. And this book tells their story about how a team wins year after year after year after year after year. It's about humility. It's about culture. It's about never being too big for the small jobs. And so I would leave you with one thing. I didn't write the book, but I love the book. I would read it. It's called Legacy. Work on your culture, work on your people, invest in getting to know your people, and make sure that you take the time to stop and step away and understand where you don't know the answer and go and ask for help. Thank you.